Damn near a legend, as old as the mine. The things that happen in the pits just don't change with time. Work till you're exhausted into a little space. A history of disastrous fears based on your face.
Welcome everybody to this edition of the Labor Forum. My name is Dianne Mathiowetz. I'm sitting in for Gary Washington, who's out for a little while until he gets better. The song we just heard was Gil Scott-Heron from his album Secrets in 1978, and the title was 3 Miles Down. And we played that because we wanted to remember at this very moment that the Chilean miners are being brought up from 2 miles down, where they've been held for over 2 months in a very small area after the mine caved in. And we know that there's been a heroic effort to rescue them, but we also know that this is one of the most dangerous occupations, and for the workers in Chile who are paid so little to bring up a resource like copper that provides so many millions and millions of dollars in profits for the mining companies, yet keep workers in such incredibly dangerous situations. So while we rejoice, and we've seen the great pictures of these miners as they've come up from 2 miles down, we still want to remember that this sort of work and these kinds of dangerous conditions are all done for profit. So today's Labor Forum is, we're going to talk with 2 people who are in the studio with us, and we're really very happy that they're here. We have Professor Chuck Stephan, who is a professor at Georgia State, but more importantly, he is on the board of the Task Force for the Homeless, and that's why he's here today. And we have Isaiah Scott, who is a senior at Morehouse College and one of the Bonner Scholars. So we're going to be talking about specifically an event that's coming up November 1st. It's called Homeless Awareness Day. But we'll be talking in a larger concept of what is going on with homelessness in the city in general. So welcome to the program, Chuck and Isaiah.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I'm so happy you're here. Just to the listeners, I know that you all expect to hear Gary Washington, and you're going, well, who the heck is that? And I have to say that I am getting my feet wet in terms of being a host of a program that discusses really serious issues, and so I hope you'll bear with me and as I learn how to do this well. So Chuck, you're on the board of the Task Force for the Homeless. Now, lots of people may have read in newspapers some pretty discouraging news about the task force. And before you answer that question, I just have been reminded of something I am supposed to do, and which is at the beginning of a program, I am supposed to say, so I just had my hand slapped. I'm supposed to say that the opinions expressed on this program may not necessarily reflect the views of the WRFG Board of Directors, its staff, or volunteers. So now I'm going to get Chuck's opinion. So as I said, people may have read or heard something about that the task force is no more, that it's on its last legs, etc., etc. And I was wondering if you, since you're on the board, you can give us a little idea about what's going on over there at the corner of Peachtree and Pine.
Sure, I'd be happy to, and thanks a lot, Diane, for having me on the program and giving me an opportunity to share with your listeners all of the wonderful things, the creative things, the really inspiring things that are happening at Peachtree Pine, which is the facility that has been operated by the Metro Atlanta Task Force for the Homeless ever since 1977. While it is true that the task force has had some well-publicized differences with the downtown business community and with city government, I am so very pleased to tell everyone out there in Radio Land that the Task Force for the Homeless is alive and well. And I don't think that I've ever witnessed such an enormous outpouring of creative energy and collective spirit in solidarity in the face of real tremendous hardship, as I'm seeing right now at Peachtree Pine. So for all of those out there who would like to witness this on their own and who would like to pay us a visit, we very much welcome you to come on down and have a look for yourself.
So I know some of the things that people may not be aware of. I think people think that, oh, it's just a shelter and men go there to sleep at night, and that's the whole deal. Could you talk just for just a second about all the other kinds of things? I know you're a photographer and you teach photography, and there's an art studio and all kinds of other really cool things that take place at the task force. Do you want to run down a few of those?
Sure, absolutely. The Task Force for the Homeless is an organization that offers a broad menu of services at Peachtree Pine. These services include such things as a hotline, which is available 24 hours a day. People who are experiencing difficulties and who are looking at the prospect of being homeless can call the hotline and get the information they need to avoid those kinds of very difficult circumstances. We also have a transitional housing program. We have a resident volunteer program. And as you mentioned, we are able to provide the residents of Peachtree Pine with an opportunity to express their real extraordinary creative energies in our art studio. And some of the most amazing artists that I've ever had the pleasure of coming into contact with are doing their work, even as I speak, at the art studio. So Peachtree Pine is much more than an emergency overflow shelter for people who are experiencing homelessness. It is a living, a vibrant, powerful community, a really wonderful and inspiring expression of all the best we hope to see and have and experience in our city.
So this actually brings me up to something that Isaiah is working on. On the Peachtree Street side of that large building that sits at that corner is the art gallery, but it's also a meeting spot called Blend. And I understand that you're helping to organize an open mic night tomorrow night. Would you like to talk about that, Isaiah?
Yes, my first time going up to the art gallery, I was absolutely amazed by the various variety of pieces that I saw done by the residents of the task force. And afterwards, I got so passionate about trying to do something there, and it occurred to us about having an open mic night. Every Thursday night we host open mic at Morehouse College. However, we're able to move the location and bring it down to the task force. So tomorrow, this Thursday, we're going to host our first open mic night at the task force. It's going to be from 7 to 11. It's open to the public. Anyone feel free to come out at the task force, 477 Peachtree Street on the corner of Peachtree and Pine. It's going to be a great time, and I think that just walking into the area and seeing the conduit of creativity that just takes place there is absolutely amazing. It's moving, and I strongly suggest and encourage anybody to come out and explore it and experience it with the rest of us.
So the students will be from just Morehouse, or is it from the AUC in general?
It's from the AUC. We're bringing students from Morehouse, Spelman, and Clark. We've opened it up. We have a couple people from Georgia State who will be there. We brought some really great poets, some of Morehouse's finest poets, some of Spelman's finest poets, some Clark's finest poets and singers, a couple of people doing dances. It's going to be a phenomenal program. I'm excited.
Well, I can't wait.
It's going to be great.
So let me just ask then about going forward to the National Homeless Awareness Day events that take place here in Atlanta that the Task Force for the Homeless organizes every year. If you could give us just some information about the background to it and exactly what happens and how people can plug in.
Sure. November the 1st, which is a Monday, the Task Force for the Homeless will be celebrating Homeless Memorial Day, and this is really a red letter day on the task force's calendar. We have been celebrating this day for the last 22 years. According to my math, that takes us back to 1988. About this time every year, we commemorate those of us who have died during the previous years, those of us who have died homeless. And we use this day not only to memorialize those who have passed away, but to celebrate life. More importantly, to celebrate everyone's life. And we use this day as an opportunity to reflect on, think critically about homelessness itself, homelessness as a problem, homelessness as an experience, homelessness as a policy challenge. And so November the 1st, Monday, Homeless Memorial Day, we are going to be doing all of these things. We're going to be thinking about, commemorating those who have died. We're going to be thinking about celebrating the lives of those who are still with us. And we're going to be thinking about ways that we can creatively, imaginatively get out of this dead end, which is homelessness.
Would you mind running down the schedule if you've got it?
Sure. So, for those of you who would like to participate, and like my young friend and colleague Isaiah over here, I urge you all to come on down. Monday at 10 o'clock in the morning, we'll all be gathering in the dining area of Peachtree Pine. Those of you who need a little coffee and maybe a donut or two, will find that your appetites will be satisfied by the wonderful people at Cascade United Methodist Church, who are going to be serving a meal. At 11:30, we will march from Peachtree Pine to City Hall. We will be marching, carrying crosses with the names of those who have died this year and in years past. We will hold a rally on the front steps of City Hall when we arrive at City Hall, and we will go into City Hall for the 1 o'clock City Council meeting. We hope to really fill up that audience to remind our elected representatives of something that we all know that they surely know, which is that there are homeless citizens, friends, family members, people who are very near to dear to us, who need the help of our elected bodies. Later on in the evening at 5:30, we will all gather together at the Cathedral of St. Philip on Peachtree Street. The wonderful people at the cathedral will serve a dinner to up to 1,000 homeless individuals. And at 7 o'clock that evening, the Cathedral of St. Philip will celebrate a Requiem Mass, which will, in the most solemn way imaginable, memorialize those who have died and celebrate the lives of those who remain with us.
You know, this is a program called the Labor Forum, and I think one of the things that people may not appreciate is that many homeless people work every day, and that certainly every homeless person was a worker at some point or another, and that either they lost their job or they got ill or something like that. And I think that's one of the reasons I was really wanting to bring this issue up on the Labor Forum, because the struggle for jobs is something that we're all thinking about. And one of the things that I know the task force talks about is that the inability of people who only work for minimum wage jobs to be able to even afford housing in this city. So that once you lose your house, you know, and then there's deposits and all these kinds of things, you are almost, it's really, really, really hard on a minimum wage job to ever get yourself back on your feet. I was wondering if either one of you, in your conversations with some of the people who shelter at the task force, if you've got any kind of story that you might want to tell the audience, you know, about the kind of men, their situations, how it is that they ended up being homeless, having to sleep under a bridge, or, you know, out in the field or in the park or on a bench.
I think I can touch upon one of the greatest blessings has been having the opportunity to talk to a lot of the guys who are residents down at the task force. And some of the people I've met have actually, they've had education, they've gotten at least that associate's degree, and it was very simple. I mean, they fell on hard times. Had a job working, I got laid off for one reason or another, and after that they couldn't find another job. And typically the first thing you think is, well, if I were in that position, I'd call friends or family. It's not said they don't call their friends and family, but there's a certain point to where you can no longer, you know, mooch off of your closest people to where they have their own problems, and they end up just getting stuck in this cycle of trying to get back on their feet. And when you get there, I think that they look for every avenue possible, and you know, the world can be such a demoralizing place to where a lot of them, I think, end up falling into a psychological trap, and it's so hard for them to break out of it. And I think that's what makes the task force even more special, is that it gives men the opportunity to try out everything, to take the time to explore themselves, to release themselves, and to be able to grow in what they like. If you like to paint, then they have the art studio for you. If you like to work on computers, or working on putting a computer lab up. If you like to do carpentry, then you can work on in those areas that just really give you the opportunity to release. I found a lot of guys who have been able to get back on the psychological level and take off from there.
Did you have a story too, Chuck?
Yeah, I'm thinking of so many stories based on conversations I've had over the years with the residents of Peachtree Pine. But I think that backing away from those individual stories, there's an important larger point to make. Homelessness should not be seen as a self-contained, discrete problem that is somehow out there, separated from the rest of us. Homelessness is symptomatic of major systemic and structural problems that we are experiencing in this country. And I would say, as an historian, that these are problems that go back perhaps to the 1970s, perhaps earlier, as the kind of economic system in which we live and work underwent major changes. And we think of such words as deindustrialization, for example. And we think about local automobile plants right here in Atlanta that have shut down. We need to think about homelessness, once again, as a symptom of underlying problems that affect us all, that these problems manifest themselves in the spheres of employment, housing, public transportation, access to public health. Anita Beatty, the executive director of the task force for many years, likens homelessness to the canary in the mine. It seems an appropriate metaphor as in light of the miners whose release from their subterranean captivity we are now celebrating. But Anita says that homelessness is like that canary in the mine. If that canary dies, you know, as a miner, that everybody is in trouble. And that's the way we need to think about homelessness. We know if there is one person out on that street, homeless, hiding in a cat hole someplace, finding sanctuary under a bridge, or in fact, with a roof over his head at Peachtree Pine, we know that we are all in trouble, because it is a problem related to the scarcity of living wage jobs, the scarcity of affordable housing, the inaccessibility of public of health care, the inaccessibility of public transit, as we watch MARTA experience cutbacks right now. So I think it's a very important point to make. Think about miners today, and think about the canary in that mine, and then come on down to the task force on November the 1st, Monday, and help us celebrate the important day that we have in front of us.
Thank you so much for that. I want to repeat again that you're listening to the Labor Forum on WRFG 89.3 FM, and we will continue with our discussion with our two guests who provided such information that you can only find on a station like WRFG. Now that will just let me segue real fast into next week. Excuse me. Next week, the marathon for our money that we need to operate the station starts on Monday, and on Tuesday and Wednesday, the Labor Forum will be trying to raise money to keep this show on the air and to bring guests like Chuck and Isaiah here. So let's just try to talk a little bit more. I was reading an article in preparation for the program I did yesterday on what is a jobless recovery, which just sort of flows really into why there's so many homeless people. And one of the things I came across was about how the foreclosure rate in Metro Atlanta this month is even higher than it was last month, and is 16% higher than it was a year ago. And so the early stuff about people losing their homes, you know, those who had had a job, and was that they had had those really bad subprime loans. But now the real situation of why tens of thousands of people are losing their homes is because of the loss of jobs. And so that every day in the newspaper we read about another corporation that's cutting back and cutting back and cutting back. And then we see simultaneously all over the city hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of newly built houses, condos, and apartments that sit empty. Have you all ever, I mean, you know, so what is your suggestion when people go to the city council and we want to raise this issue of how many thousands of people are homeless in Atlanta? What is it that these public officials should be doing, in your opinion? Either one of you.
Well, I guess I'll jump in there. Well, I think that what we can ask of our elected leaders in the city council is what we should be asking of ourselves and of the larger community. And that is that we recognize the problem and understand the problem for what it is. Now, the meltdown in the housing market that we've been experiencing here in Atlanta and across the country, I think, again, is one more example of the kind of end result that we can expect if we operate on what I see as a false belief that solutions to social problems are to be found in the marketplace. That the market-driven solution is the only solution worth pursuing. I mean, the meltdown of the housing market and the foreclosure experience that is now absolutely devastating large swaths of this city, not only in South and West Atlanta, but throughout the entire metropolitan area. That housing crisis was manufactured. That was manufactured, concocted, and cooked up by Wall Street bankers and investment interests. And they were able to do what they did because of deregulation of banking laws and restrictions that took place, well, back in the 1990s and even earlier. So if I were to have a member of the City Council in front of me, I would say what we need to do is to think about the public sphere, to think about the role of public representatives in defining the nature of the problem and in formulating approaches to the problem. The moment that we go into the marketplace, the moment that we go hat in hand to the business community asking for solutions, that is the moment when we end up going down the road that has led us to such things as the foreclosure crisis, to the rapid increase of homelessness in our city, and to all of the other systemic problems that we've mentioned in the last couple of minutes.
Okay, we just have a few minutes left, so what I want you to do, if you don't mind, each one of you is to just repeat the information about the event that I asked you about originally, and if there's some contact info or anything else, one more big encouragement for people to turn out. So we'll start with Isaiah first, because his event's tomorrow night.
Once again, the event is tomorrow, October 14th. It's from 7 to 11 o'clock at the Task Force. It's about to be the greatest poetry night Atlanta has ever seen. We have some of the most phenomenal artists coming out from Morehouse, Spelman, and Clark. There's a couple of dancers, some singers, and they just have a plethora of knowledge and words that they have to share to Atlanta. I suggest everyone comes out. Once again, it's on the corner of Peachtree and Pine from 7 to 11 o'clock tomorrow night at the Task Force.
So I'll just say, be there or be square. Go ahead.
And the event that I would like to publicize, November the 1st, Monday, the Task Force for the Homeless will be sponsoring the 22nd Homeless Memorial Day. We'll be gathering at Peachtree Pine at 10 o'clock for coffee and donuts. We'll be marching from Peachtree Pine to City Hall at 11:30. Later on in the evening at 5:30, dinner will be served to up to 1,000 homeless citizens at the Cathedral of St. Philip, and then at 7 o'clock we will celebrate a Requiem Mass in honor of those homeless citizens and friends of ours who have died this past year. So please come and enjoy all of those activities.
I want to just put in a plug for the Facebook page that the task force has started, because it has some really task force for the homeless Facebook. And you are really encouraged to go on there and see these videos, and also to keep up to date with the events that are taken there. So I thank everyone again for appearing today on today's program of the Labor Forum. I want to give a shout out to Gary Washington. I hope he's listening, and I hope he's feeling way better. And we look forward to his return. And next week I want every person who's listening to call in with a pledge to keep the Labor Forum, Gary Washington's long running program that has brought news and views to Atlanta for forever. So please, we'll see you again next week, Tuesday and Wednesday. This is Dianne Mathiowetz for the Labor Forum, signing out. Thank you.